next 5 years, Guyana will experience unprecedented transformational development across the country that will affect the livelihoods of all Guyanese. One such initiative is the Amaila Falls Hydro Project that was a birth child of the PPPC administration, but then there was a gap missing. So we're here to talk this evening, live coming to you from NCN, about that project and what it will do to Guyanese. I'm your host for this program, Travis Bruce, and at this time I'm joined by Dr. Ashni Singh, Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Travis. It's a great pleasure to be here.
All right. So I know, this is nothing new to Guyanese. We've heard a lot about this project past and also now present. So tell me a little bit about the impact, because there was, from 2015, we heard nothing about it. It was basically neglected. So can we touch a little bit on that?
Sure, absolutely. So once again, first of all, let me thank you very much for inviting me to do this program, and indeed, thank you very much for doing the program. And I say that because the Amaila Falls Hydro Project is such an important project of national significance, and it is indeed one of those projects that will be truly transformative in every sense of the word. And so I'm extremely happy that you chose to focus on the project for the purposes of this interview. If I might perhaps go back a little bit in time, Amaila was many years ago identified by a number of external and domestic studies, as one of the sites with the greatest hydropower potential in Guyana. This has been documented over the years. It's been studied from every single angle, and on every occasion, Amaila's potential for hydroelectricity has been reconfirmed and reaffirmed. As you quite rightly pointed out in your introduction, prior to 2015, in the pre-2015 PPPC government, we had devoted quite a lot of effort towards developing this project. We completed extensive studies, including the necessary environmental and social impact assessment, financial and economic examination of the project, etc. We also engaged with the international community on the project, including the international investor community and also international financial institutions. And you might recall, your viewers might recall, that at the time we had secured support from a number of partners who were interested and committed in supporting in working with Guyana to ensure the realization of this project, and I'm going to mention just a few. First of all, we secured the support of a major international institutional investor. This is the Blackstone Group, who were interested in developing the project. They were fully on board. As you know, they came to Guyana. They engaged with various stakeholders in Guyana. They stated publicly their interest in developing this project. So we had a world-class investor, large-scale institutional investor of world renown on board, ready to support the project. Secondly, under that structure, the structure that we were contemplating at the time, we also had secured under the Guyana Red Plus Investment Fund, the GRIF, which, as you know, is the fund that was established pursuant to our Guyana's partnership with Norway under the Low Carbon Development Strategy. We had secured under the GRIF fund, we had secured an amount of $80 million, which was going to be contributed as government or national equity in the project. Part of a total government contribution of $100 million in the project. And we had also secured at the time the support of other partners. As you know, the GRIF fund, that $80 million amount was being intermediated through the IDB, who would have been involved also as the intermediary agency facilitating the investment of this amount of equity into the project. And so there was a very strong international support. It was recognized that this project was going to be transformational, not only from the standpoint of addressing Guyana's long-standing energy deficit, the fact that we simply don't produce enough electricity, address the chronic problems of reliability of electricity that we've had for as long as most of us can remember, the chronic incidents of blackouts, etc. And also, of course, address issues related to cost and competitiveness of electricity, And, I'm going to come back to these three impediments. And so we mobilized the support of all of these external partners, and were at the point, almost at the point of realizing the project, when the then APNU AFC opposition used their one-seat majority in the parliament at the time. They were a one-seat majority opposition, you would recall. This is during the 2011 to 2015 period, to derail the project. And so they actively voted against the project, and effectively obstructed the project from moving forward, because, of course, understandably, the Blackstone Group wanted to know that the project had parliamentary support, and they indicated that they wanted to know that the project had parliamentary support. And the APNU AFC at the time obstructed the project, as a result of which the project, we had pretty much to hit pause on the project. Then, of course, the APNU AFC came into government in 2015, and instead of reopening the project or re-examining the project with a view to reformulating it if they felt a reformulation was necessary, or re-engaging with the partners if they felt that a re-engagement was necessary to restructure the project in any way, instead of doing that, they effectively killed the project completely. What is of particular note is that in 2016, while they were in government, and at their instance, an international consulting group, the Norconsult, a Norwegian-based consulting group, did a study of the project, did an analysis of the project, and concluded very clearly that Amaila Falls was the best option for Guyana to achieve clean and renewable energy. And that report was issued by Norconsult. The APNU AFC had that report in their possession, but did not act on that report's very clear and definitive statement that Amaila was the best option for Guyana to achieve clean and renewable energy, or to achieve a transition to clean and renewable energy. Instead, they essentially, like I said, killed the project, or finalized the killing of the project, which they had initiated in the pre-2015 period. We committed in our manifesto leading up to the 2020 election, we committed to renewing work on the project. And as you know, that commitment was a public commitment. It's widely known. And of course, we were subsequently elected on the basis of that manifesto. We were re-elected to office in 2020. And as soon as we assumed office, as soon as President Ali assumed office on the 2nd of August 2020, our government set about immediately doing the work that would be necessary to bring this project back on stream. That led ultimately to a public advertisement, a very open and transparent process, a public advertisement inviting companies to bid for development of this project, to indicate their interest in participating in the development of this project, which they did. We got a number of international companies indicating an interest in proceeding with the project. And the most recent announcement that you would have seen, I think a few days ago, perhaps earlier this week, the most recent announcement represents the culmination of that open and transparent process, which saw bids received, evaluated by a technical team, evaluated by the National Procurement and Tenders Administration, who received the evaluation report, and who then in turn, on the basis of that evaluation report, made a recommendation to the Cabinet, and the Cabinet of course granted its no objection for us to engage with the top-ranked company. So that's the historic background. Let me say that the merits of this project have long been established and have been amply demonstrated over and over and over again. And I want to make this point very clear. I don't believe there's anybody in Guyana who does not appreciate the impact that inadequate, unreliable, and expensive electricity has had on our country. And I'm not only referring, although it is important to refer, I'm not only referring to the inconveniences that we suffer in our homes when we have blackouts, etc. You know, that for a long time has been a bugbear of daily life in Guyana. And so for a long time, the citizenry at large have recognized how important it is to increase the production of electricity and to improve its reliability. And of course, the citizenry has also been paying electricity bills that they consider to be more expensive than they should, and I believe rightly so. And so there is amongst the public at large, I think, a strong recognition of the importance of addressing the problems that are faced by the electricity sector. But over and beyond that, or I shouldn't say over and beyond that, I should say in addition to that, inadequate supply of electricity has also been a significant bugbear to economic development in Guyana. And in particular, I want to highlight industrial and manufacturing, as the economic activities that are associated with industrial development, and such as manufacturing activity. And for a long time, we have been unable to realize a functioning and competitive industrial sector and manufacturing sector, specifically because electricity is as expensive as it is. And so for that reason, also from the point of view of developing industrial activity, from the point of view of developing manufacturing activity, and the jobs that those would create and the economic opportunities that those would create, a project such as Amaila Falls is also absolutely important. Now you might ask, why would the APNU AFC have obstructed this project? And one can venture on all manner of speculation. I will be completely frank with you, and I will say that there is no other reason but to obstruct and frustrate this project, because they don't want this project to be realized, because they believe that it will somehow redound to the credit of the People's Progressive Party. Which is really tragic, because this is, there's an old saying about cutting off your nose to spite your face. This is an opposition who, prior to 2015 and who now would criticize and obstruct a project which they know would benefit the country at large, for no other reason but the fact that they don't want the People's Progressive Party Civic to get the credit for it. Ironically, they were in government for 5 years. They did nothing to realize the project, and they did nothing to propose an alternative of any sort. They proposed no alternative of any sort in place of the Amaila Falls, and they refused to proceed with the Amaila Falls project. So, like I said, a lot of work has gone into demonstrating the merits of this project. Those merits have been well established. And we're looking forward now to being, we're looking forward now to being in a place where the project is realized and where the Guyanese people enjoy the benefits of this project, which benefits they would have been enjoying already had the then opposition, the pre-2015 opposition, had not derailed the project. The people of Guyana would have been enjoying the benefits of Amaila right now as you and I speak.
Dr. Singh, you mentioned there about that lull, I want to say, and persons that would have or could have benefited in that regard. Let's talk specifically how Guyanese will benefit from this. I know there are two options into realizing and operationalizing this project, that is the BOOT and the DFB. So if we could talk a little bit about what the two mean, distinguish between the two, and I also want us to touch a little bit, because I know there are other sources of energy, renewable energy that we can tap into. The Gas to Shore project, perhaps,
Absolutely.
is one. So we
Absolutely.
can reference that also.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned that, and you ask a number of things there which I
Yes.
want to address. First, you ask how Guyanese will benefit from this project. Well, in the very immediate term, the mere construction of this project, the mere the economic activity that's going to be associated with constructing this project, that activity alone is going to create hundreds of jobs that Guyanese people will be participating in. And it's going to create hundreds of millions of dollars of business opportunities for companies that are going to be either supplying materials or contractors or multiple layers of subcontractors who are going to be providing inputs and who are going to be providing support in the process of constructing the project. So there's an economic opportunity there during the construction period. But secondly, once the project is completed, like I mentioned earlier, the benefits will redound to all of the Guyanese people. So in the economic space, in the what I would call the real economy, the productive economy, immediately all Guyanese businesses, manufacturers, industries, and indeed people in the service sector, every single Guyanese business in the productive sector will find that their cost of doing business will come down because the cost of electricity will come down. That in turn improves their competitiveness, both domestically and internationally. It improves their profitability. It improves their capacity to pass on the reduction in manufacturing costs that they're experiencing. It creates an opportunity. It generates more. It generates more free cash flow, which in turn creates an opportunity for them to expand and to grow their businesses, and ultimately to grow the economy. That's the first point. That's the first or second point that I want to make. In addition to businesses benefiting, citizens will benefit. So households will benefit from the more reliable, more affordable energy that's going to be generated, the electricity. But thirdly, this project is going to put Guyana in a position where we're going to make a huge leap towards clean and renewable energy. So Amaila is immediately going to put ourselves in a position where we're going to be getting almost 160 megawatts of power from a clean and renewable source. And that itself is an important development, and it's yet another contribution that Guyana will be making to the global effort against climate change, along with our standing forests, etc. Now you ask about, from the broader context in terms of how we're going to benefit, and you mentioned the two models. So you are right, there's the design, build, finance model, which is a model under which the project would have been designed, built, and financed by the top-ranked company, and then the infrastructure that would have been constructed would be transferred to and operated by government. That's one model, where essentially we would bear the cost of construction and operating. The second model is the BOOT model, build, own, operate, transfer, where the preferred company constructs the facility and operates the facility and sells the power to Guyana. The evaluators, having, as you know, the invitation to bid, requested both options, and many of the companies offered both options. Some offered only one option. The evaluators examined all of the options and recommended that we go with the boot model in this particular instance. And under the boot model, and in particular under this, the proposal that was submitted by China Rail, which was the top-ranked company, under this model, we will not be meeting the cost of constructing the power plant. We will not be investing equity in the project. The company is going to be doing that. Guyana will be buying power from the company. So they will be constructing the power plant and be meeting the cost of constructing the power plant. They will be operating the plant, and they will sell power to Guyana, and we will buy power. The GPL in particular will be the off-taker of the power here. And GPL will be buying power at a cost not to exceed 7.7 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, you also mention the broader energy matrix. And you're absolutely correct that Amaila is simply one part of this broader energy matrix. In parallel with Amaila, we're working aggressively to deliver the Gas to Shore project. That Gas to Shore project is going to see a gas pipeline constructed to land our gas resources in West Demerara and deliver that gas to the Wales Development Authority, where a power plant will be constructed to convert that gas to energy, to electricity to be supplied to the national grid, but also electricity to be supplied to the immediate environs of the Wales Development Authority, where we're planning a major industrial development, major manufacturing and industrial operations will be taking place in Wales. But the power that is generated by the power plant at Wales that will be off-taking this gas, that power will also be sold to GPL, will also add energy to the national grid, which is also an important part. And I'm glad that you mentioned it, because Amaila is not just, is not the sole project or the sole initiative being pursued in the energy sector. The Gas to Shore and Wales Development, Wales Power Generation Project is also an extremely important component of the broader work that we're doing on diversifying the energy matrix and further increasing the capacity of our electricity generating capacity, and like I said, addressing issues of reliability and cost earlier. So I'm glad that you mentioned those, because Wales is in fact an extremely important part of the bigger picture.
Yeah. Dr. Singh, you mentioned there as you were describing, the gas to shore, and I'm sure perhaps wind and solar will also play a part of this energy mix that you're speaking about. Can we safely say that this is steps towards liberalization of the energy sector in Guyana, and it would really benefit us as an oil-producing country also?
Well, I'm absolutely glad that you mentioned that, because we are also we currently are doing work on developing mini hydros in a number of other locations. So we're looking at locations like Kumu, Makamaka, and others with a view to developing hydropower capabilities there. We're also looking, of course, at solar energy. As you know, we're actively working on delivering significant solar energy capability to the national grid. Both from the point of view of electricity generation for sale of power at a large scale, but also even at the household level. As you know, we recently announced a project to deliver 30,000 household level solar energy units. And so you are absolutely correct in identifying that beyond these two larger scale projects, beyond Amaila and the Gas to Shore, we also have the solar farms that we're working on. We also have the mini hydros that we're working on. We also have the household level solar interventions that we're working on, all as part of a much broader all as part of a much broader effort on the electricity generation side, and in particular the transition to cleaner and more renewable sources.
And also, one of the points I'd want to mention is that with the realization of these various projects, it ensures that, especially in far-flung communities, they're able to benefit from reliable and clean energy also. I want us to, move a little bit away from Amaila for now, because there's a similar project that will bring relief to Guyanese. I know traffic congestion remains in a very big issue, especially along the East Bank corridor. So we will see the new Demerara Harbour Bridge that will be constructed. Can you give us an update of when this will start? Where are we right now as it relates to that construction?
Absolutely. So that, in fact, was the second major announcement that was made a few days ago in relation to these projects. So we announced the mile, and we also announced that the Cabinet had granted its no objection for us to proceed to engage the top-ranked bidder with respect to the new Demerara Harbour Bridge. And here again, this is such a critical project from multiple standpoints. And I want to mention a few of these. First of all, anybody who has been following developments in transport infrastructure in Guyana over the years would know the limitations of the current Demerara Harbour Bridge. It has served our country well. It continues to be an absolutely essential artery connecting West Demerara and East Demerara, well, in particular the west bank of Demerara and the east bank of Demerara, but indeed the west and east sides of the Demerara River. And that is well known. But equally so, the limitations of the current Demerara Harbour Bridge are also very well known. And, as much as it has served us well, and as much as it continues to provide excellent service, and we hope will continue to provide excellent service in the foreseeable future, the fact of the matter is that the volume, the demand that is being made of it far exceeds its current capacity. That bridge was constructed at a time when the population in West Demerara was not as, well, you certainly didn't have the level of commute across the Demerara River. There are vast new housing areas now in West Demerara, Parfait, Harmony, Tushen, and those places where, thousands of Guyanese families live. Many of them work in Georgetown, or they work on the East Bank, or they work on the East Coast, and they commute across the river every day at a level that really could not possibly have been envisaged when the original bridge was built. And anybody who travels over that bridge every day would tell you what they endure to cross the river by the sheer volume of the traffic. And then, of course, once you come on the East Bank, and you have tens of thousands of Guyanese families living on the East Bank of Demerara, Diamond, Grove, and further up the East Bank, and then coming closer, Eccles, housing schemes that 20, 25 years ago did not exist, but that now accommodate literally tens of thousands of Guyanese families, all of whom, or most of whom, commute to Georgetown every morning to work, meet up with the West Demerara traffic, and struggle every day to get to, and endure sometimes 2-hour commutes in the morning and 2-hour commutes in the evening to get back home, to get back and forth from work. And if you consider the number of man hours that are lost there and the costs that are associated with the travel, the traffic, the burning of petrol, the mere value of the time that is lost, and the inconvenience that people suffer. The new Demerara Harbour Bridge is going to put down a modern 4-lane structure across the river. So that immediately, instantaneously doubles the capacity of the bridge. And it's also going to be connected not only to the existing West Bank connections, and as you know, we also plan to build a new Parika to Skunard road. So the Skunard to Parika road and the existing West Bank road that leads through Wiedenhoop into the west coast of Demerara and onwards to Parika. That new Demerara Harbour Bridge is going to be efficiently connected with those major West Demerara arteries. And on the East Bank side, it's going to be connected not only with the existing roads, but as you know, we are building also a number of new bypass roads on the East Bank to augment the existing East Bank road. And so, as you know, there's the Diamond to Mandela, there's the Eccles to Mandela road, which is already at an advanced stage of construction. There's going to be the Diamond to Ogle road that's going to be constructed. As you know, these roads are intended to alleviate the congestion on the existing East Bank road. And the new Demerara Harbour Bridge, the new Demerara River Bridge, is going to provide easy connection with these new arteries that are being built to facilitate traffic along the East Bank. And so this is another absolutely critical project. It's a project that, goes to the core of, I should mention too that, if you consider that when the Wales Development Authority is constructed, which is happening, is going to happen, and given the level of economic activity, the volume of economic activity that we're going to have in Wales and by extension on the west bank of Demerara and in West Demerara more generally, when you consider the level of economic activity that's going to generate, the need for a more efficient crossing over the Demerara River becomes even more obvious. And so the new Demerara River Bridge will meet that critical need. And I hasten to add that what you are witnessing here is the various elements of a comprehensive plan. So a lot of study has gone into where we see the country going in terms of its development trajectory, where we see major new centers of economic activity, major new developments in terms of urbanization, new housing areas, major population centers, shifting population centers because of new economic activity emerging, etc. And recognizing all of these developments, ensuring that we put in place the infrastructural prerequisites to anticipate those developments and to meet the needs that will be associated with those developments. So all of these, whether it's Amaila Falls, the Gas to Shore project, the new Demerara Harbour Bridge, these are all critical parts of our government's comprehensive plan to meet the infrastructural needs of the modern Guyana.
Dr. Singh, you mentioned there, and it paints a clear picture of where Guyana is headed. The president often speaks about transformation, and we are seeing that, especially in infrastructure, even too in agriculture. How satisfied are you in just 1 year since the assumption of the PPC administration into office? We have seen development, we have seen changes, and it continues to grow. How satisfied are you thus far? What can you tell us that will happen over the next 4 years that will set Guyana above other countries around the world?
Well, let me say this. I think that the work that President Ali's government has been doing from the very first day that he assumed office, from the 2nd of August 2020, I think the work has been done in full public view. The world has seen the work that we've been doing. The president hit the ground running from the very first day that he assumed office. And he has been maintaining that pace for the entire year. His entire cabinet has been fully on board with this pace of work. And literally every day you see members of President Ali's cabinet advancing their respective sectoral agendas for modernization and transformation of Guyana. And I believe that there is abundant, visible, tangible and visible evidence of what has been achieved. Whether it is the roads that are being built, and there are roads that are under construction that did not exist. If you look just on the East Bank, the work that we're doing on, like I said, the Eccles to Mandela, the Mandela to Eccles and beyond, going towards Diamond and beyond, those roads are there. Whether it is the new housing areas that are being developed, and as you know, we're working on housing areas in several parts of the country, whether it is Greater Diamond, Little Diamond, Cummings Lodge, LBI, wherever it is. Whether it is the work that we're doing on modernizing our social sector, our social infrastructure, our schools and our hospitals, our water supply systems. I believe that there's an abundance of very visible and tangible evidence of the work that we're doing. Let me say this definitively, that successive People's Progressive Party civic governments have prided themselves, we pride ourselves on being a working government. You know, the most important thing is to get the work done. The most important thing is to get the work done and to deliver the results for people. And you know, when I consider how much could have been achieved if we had continued beyond 2015 working at the pace that we were working at, when I consider how much further ahead we would have been as a country today had we not lost those 5 years. And they were lost 5 years. You know, I've said it a few times. I don't want it to be said that I say it too often. But you know, if you look around to see the evidence of what was achieved between 2015 and 2020, you'd be very hard pressed to see much beyond, you know, an arch here and an arch there. You know, in terms of real transformation, there's very little to see from the APNU-AFC's tenure in government from 2015 to 2020, in contrast with the very real and tangible evidence of the work that we're doing today. Having said that, you know, we're still pushing very aggressively because we want to achieve this transformation in the shortest possible time. And you know, we made a number of commitments in our manifesto, many of which we have already delivered, some of which are well underway to being delivered. And you know, we're committed to delivering everything that we've promised under our manifesto. And you know, let me emphasize too that the commitments that we gave, or the evidence of the work that we are doing, is not only in infrastructure. It's not only in roads and bridges and schools and hospitals. Those are there to see. But there are many other manifestations of what this government is delivering in Guyana. And I want to mention very briefly, if time will permit us, just a couple of, you know, very brief examples. First of all, from the time we returned to government, investor confidence in Guyana was restored, or the work to restore investor confidence began immediately, and investor confidence soared immediately. And so in the shortest possible time, we've already seen a resumption of private investment at a scale that is unprecedented. Recognizing, I think the entire world recognizes that President Ali and his government are serious about advancing development in Guyana, about receiving and encouraging private investment and facilitating private investment in Guyana. We have become once again a welcoming jurisdiction for investors, both international and domestic. We are once again, Guyana is once again a welcoming, a hospitable jurisdiction, a hospitable destination for investment. Whereas I think it would be fair to say that from 2015 to 2020, Guyana was an inhospitable, an unfriendly, inhospitable, and even hostile destination for investment, as a result of which many investors completely disengaged with Guyana. But subsequent to 2020, they have re-engaged. They're coming back to Guyana. They're initiating their projects where they had left them off, or where they had abandoned them, or they're resuming their projects where they're projects that were put on halt, put on pause, because of the events, the pre-2020 events, the 2015 to 2020 events, and in particular the 2018 to 2020 events. So there is a very visible resumption of private investor confidence in Guyana. And this is translating in a very widely known fashion. This is translating into economic activity, job creation, income generation. Let's take one example, a sector that I've been engaged with very closely, the business process outsourcing sector. We have seen that sector reinvigorated. I've spoken with all of the BPO companies. They're all keen to expand their operations again. They're creating jobs. You've seen we've gone, we're encouraging them to go to every region in the country. You've seen, for example, we've partnered with a locally owned BPO that they have gone to, together we've gone to Linden. They have re-established a call center that we had there in Linden previously that was closed during the 2015 to 2020 period. That call center has now been established. They've said they will recruit as much as 250 persons by early next year. They've already recruited and have started training more than 100 persons. That's 100 families who are now in receipt of an income or an additional income, have additional disposable income, will spend that additional disposable income in the shops, in the markets, in the service providers, in Linden and elsewhere, and are now better off. And that's only one example. That's happening in many, many places. And so to answer your question, I think there's a lot of, I think there's an abundance of very visible a confirmation of the work that we've been doing since we've come into office. But I hasten to add, we will continue to push constantly because we want this transformation. President Ali has made it very clear he wants this transformation of Guyana to happen in the shortest possible time.
Wonderful words there to close off our program. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to be here and share how much good will be happening for all Guyanese over the next 4 years. We've already seen a year worth of work that has truly impacted all Guyanese from all across our country. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ashni Singh. And thank you also to you, our listeners and viewers of this program, joining us both on television and radio right here on NCN. I was your host, Travis Bruce. Goodbye.